Hey, this is हेमांग पंडित और हम लोग स्टार्ट कर रहे हैं आज एक पॉडकास्ट सीरीज। द पॉडकास्ट सीरीज इज गोइंग टू बी वेरी एक्साइटिंग। ज़्यादा करके लोग अपने सक्सेस के बारे में बात करते हैं, लेकिन हम बात करेंगे फेलियर्स के बारे में। हम लोगों को इंटरव्यू करेंगे, उनसे के साथ बात करेंगे और जानेंगे कि वो लाइफ में किन किन चीज़ों के कारण फेल हुए, क्या क्या चैलेंजेस उन्होंने फेस की और उसके बाद उन्होंने क्या ऐसा चेंज लाया अपनी लाइफ में जिनसे उन्हें सक्सेस मिली। मैं हमेशा कहता हूँ कि अगर फेलियर मेंटोरिंग करती या कोचिंग करती तो मैं वो कोचिंग सेशन में ज़रूर आना चाहूँ। तो आज हमारे साथ गेस्ट हैं निरंजन एंड गौरी परांजपे पे और वो हमारे साथ अपने एक्सपीरियंसेस शेयर करेंगे। हेलो गाइस, हाउ आर यू?
Hi, Hemang. How are you doing?
Fantastic, fantastic. So what I will like to start with, knowing you guys for so many years, is I would like to start with Niranjan to tell us about how you did your education and how you joined your father and the whole story before I come to Gauri.
Sure. So, thanks so much for having this. So, I got started way back in 2002 when I passed out of my graduation. I'm a graduate in political science. And after that, I did not have anything specific in mind. मतलब मुझे पता नहीं था कि आगे जाके करना क्या है. So, I was just giving interviews left, right and center. यहाँ की entrance, वहाँ की entrance. बिकॉज समझ में नहीं आ रहा था क्या करना है. एंड द ओनली थिंग इन माई माइंड एट दैट टाइम वॉज कि यार कुछ ना कुछ पोस्ट ग्रेजुएशन का जुगाड़ करना है, बिकॉज ओनली ग्रेजुएशन विल नॉट हेल्प. क्योंकि जनरल एक सेंटिमेंट वहाँ पर ग्रेजुएशन के समय बना हुआ था कि मेरे बाकी जो क्लासमेट्स थे वो कहीं ना कहीं की एंट्रेंस दे करके उनका आगे का जर्नी फिक्स हो रहा था. एंड आई डिड नॉट नो व्हाट टू डू. तो जहाँ मिले वहाँ मैं एंट्रेंस दे रहा था एंड एट वन प्लेस वो एंट्रेंस क्लिक कर गया एंड दैट वाज द डिपार्टमेंट ऑफ कम्युनिकेशन स्टडीज एट पुणे यूनिवर्सिटी. So I took admission for post-graduation communication studies. That means I was trained to make television programs. Like ये जो setup यहाँ पे आप लोगों को दिख रहा है, I was trained to make a setup like this. So वो education भी मैंने मतलब वो कोर्स के लिए मैंने एडमिशन सिर्फ लिया था बिकॉज आई वांटेड अ स्टैम्प ऑफ बीइंग अ पोस्ट ग्रेजुएट. आई डिड नॉट ऑब्वियसली पे अ लॉट ऑफ अटेंशन. सो मतलब अगर आप मुझे पूछें कि ये सेटअप तुम अभी लगा सकते हो क्या, सो आई विल से नो आई कांट बिकॉज आई डिडंट पे अ लॉट ऑफ अटेंशन इन माय कॉलेज पोस्ट ग्रेजुएशन. एंड आफ्टर दैट क्या हुआ फिर मतलब ड्यूरिंग द 2 years ऑफ दैट पोस्ट ग्रेजुएशन पीपल वर वेरी फोकस्ड. मतलब जो मेरे क्लासमेट्स थे वो कहीं ना कहीं इंटर्नशिप किया करते थे एंड उसी इंटर्नशिप में फिर उनको एब्जॉर्ब भी किया जा रहा था. एंड जैसे जैसे वो 2 साल का पीरियड खत्म हो रहा था, थिंग्स स्टार्टेड चेंजिंग इन आवर क्लासरूम. मतलब लोगों का जो फोकस था वो एक दूसरे की दोस्ती से बढ़ के दे स्टार्टेड बिकमिंग मोर करियर ओरिएंटेड. और उस समय मेरे सामने कुछ भी करियर पाथ ओपन नहीं था. वन इम्पॉर्टेंट थिंग मैंने अपने सीनियर्स को देखा था, मेरे बाकी कलीग्स को देखा था, दे वर गोइंग इनटू कॉर्पोरेट हाउसेस और वहाँ पर जा कर के कहीं ना कहीं नौकरी करनी है, अपने बॉस की गालियाँ सुननी है. एंड देन हमारा जो फील्ड था बाय द वे इट वाज नॉट एन ऑर्गेनाइज्ड स्ट्रक्चर. मतलब एंट्री लेवल पे ही आपको इतना पैकेज मिलेगा, उसके बाद में इंक्रीमेंट इस तरह से होगी, नथिंग ऑफ दैट सॉर्ट. सो कहने का मतलब ये है कि यू गो इनटू अ प्रोडक्शन हाउस and you just try to do जैसे कहते हैं ना कि you try to be the कैसे handyman over there
on the
or
job
on the job sort of correct. और वहाँ पर किसी की मेहर अगर तुम पे आ गई एंड उसने कहा ये बंदा अच्छा है चल इसको उठा लेते हैं, एंड देन दैट इज हाउ योर सक्सेस और प्रोग्रेशन इन दैट करियर यूज्ड टू बी.
Does your degree really matter? And like, can I not do it without that degree also?
I think you could do it much better without the degree because at least you are like an open slate and मतलब फिर तुम पानी की तरह बन जाते हो, जिसमें डालो उसका शेप ले लेते हो. So what you say is correct. So फिर मैं देख रहा था कि I never wanted to do any sort of a job. वो करियर पाथ मेरे लिए मैंने कहा ये मेरे को नहीं करना है बिकॉज 10 years down the line मुझे दिखाई दे रहा था कि मेरा क्या हाल होने वाला है. और बीच में क्या हुआ पता है, बीच में इन द पोस्ट ग्रेजुएशन आई गॉट टू नो गौरी एंड हम दोनों की दोस्ती हो गई. देन वी स्टार्टेड गोइंग आउट टुगेदर एंड वी स्टार्टेड गेटिंग क्वाइट सीरियस अबाउट ईच अदर. एंड देन वन फाइन डे आई स्टिल रिमेंबर दैट डे कि एक ऐसा मौका आता है जब आपको जाकर के लड़की के मदर एंड फादर से मिलना होता है. सो आई वॉज कंप्लीटली कॉन्फिडेंट कि जाकर के मैं पूरा वो डिस्कशन फाड़ दूंगा. एंड मैं गया एंड जनरली क्या होता है कि लड़की के जो माता पिता होते हैं दे हैव ओनली 2 questions. ओके, सो her mother, by the way, both her parents are doctors, okay? The father is a surgeon and mother is a very established anesthetist, और बहुत बड़ी प्रैक्टिस है उनकी, बहुत सालों से प्रैक्टिस है. सो ऑब्वियसली उनके दो बहुत बेसिक सवाल थे. द फर्स्ट क्वेश्चन वाज तुम क्या करते हो? सो मेरा उस समय का सवाल जवाब था, नो कुछ नहीं करता अभी. ओके, देन शी सेड कि आगे करने का क्या प्लान है? सो मैंने कहा पता नहीं. एंड आई कुड सी द लुक ऑन हर फेस कंप्लीटली चेंज कि माय गॉड, व्हाट इज दिस गाय अप टू? मतलब पोस्ट ग्रेजुएशन खत्म होने का है एंड दिस गाय हैज स्टिल नॉट फिगर्ड आउट क्या करना है उसे, एंड हाउ आर दे गोइंग टू हैव अ लाइफ टुगेदर. एंड एट दैट पॉइंट इन टाइम, मतलब उनके घर में बैठे हुए समथिंग टर्न्ड इनसाइड मी, एंड मैंने कहा यार ये स्टेटस अभी चेंज होना चाहिए, बिकॉज आई कैन नॉट बी लाइक दिस कि पता नहीं क्या करना है, देख लेंगे. Now, I suddenly started feeling very
By the way,
responsible.
there was no pressure from my side, but yes, he did get very serious about what he wants to do in future. I think that was a moment of realization that something has to be done, and Niranjan had very categorically said that I don't want to do a job. मुझे किसी के अंडर काम करना, I won't be able to do it. So I think that time he realized in a way that something more serious needs to be done. But when we used to have conversations, I could sense that there was a little bit of fear about what exactly can be done, because starting something on your own is not easy at all times, especially when you come from a background where your parents have never done any business, or it's nowhere in your family, and a lot of questions come up in the mind, what starting from what to do
The uncertainty of
exactly.
And this is where I would like to also try to paint this picture, because ये हमारे कंट्री के ग्रेजुएट्स की, ये सब लोगों की यही हालत है कि द मोमेंट यू आर ग्रेजुएट, सडनली देयर इज अ प्रेशर टू गेट एम्प्लॉयड इन विच एवर वे पॉसिबल. कहीं पर भी जाके चिपक जाओ भैया, क्योंकि एक बार तुम कहीं ना कहीं नौकरी पे लग गए हो, ये स्टैंप आ जाएगा तो द एंटायर वर्ल्ड स्टॉप्स कमेंटिंग ऑन यू. Absolutely,
Exactly.
absolutely. And the walls were sort of closing on me very very soon. मुझे दिखाई दे रहा था कि जल्दी से जल्दी अगर कुछ काम का प्रबंध नहीं हुआ तो something is going to go wrong. And at that time business करने का दिमाग में था, पर बिजनेस करने के लिए आई ऑलवेज जोक अराउंड कि दिस वाज 20 इयर्स बैक, और उस समय शार्क टैंक नाम का कोई प्रोग्राम नहीं था जहां पर आप आपकी आइडिया लेके जाओ एंड दे फंड योर वेंचर. ऐसा कुछ था नहीं. हमारे घर में एक ही शार्क थे एंड दैट वाज माय फादर, और उनसे कुछ फंडिंग तो मुझे मिलने वाली नहीं थी. बट आई गॉट समथिंग मच बेटर विच आई विल कम टू इन अ व्हाइल. सो आई वाज डेस्परेटली लुकिंग फॉर अ वे आउट. एंड जब कहते हैं ना कि यू ओनली सी व्हाट यू आर एक्चुअली लुकिंग एट, so you only see what you are really aiming at. So for 2 years, okay, जब जैसे ही मेरी ग्रेजुएशन खत्म हो गई थी, coincidentally उसी समय my father had gotten into a business, and his opportunity was like I could join into the business, and he was forever inviting me कि तुम क्यों नहीं ज्वाइन होते मेरे साथ. एंड एट दैट टाइम मुझे उसमें कुछ भी इंटरेस्ट नहीं था, बिकॉज मैं सोच रहा था कि यार मैं पोस्ट ग्रेजुएशन करूंगा, उसके बाद में अच्छी सी नौकरी मिलेगी. ये मेरे पिताजी का रिटायरमेंट के बाद जो उन्होंने बिजनेस शुरू किया, उसमें मैं क्यों ज्वाइन करूं.
that was not from business.
No. He was a bank employee for 30 years.
Oh.
And after that, post his VRS, he started with this venture of his. So मैंने सोचा ये VRS के बाद रिटायर लोगों के करने का काम है, वो मैं क्यों करूँगा. आई एम अ पोस्ट ग्रेजुएट. एंड फिर जब सीन चेंज होता हुआ दिखने लगा, देन मैंने सोचा कि यार ये कह तो रहे थे, अगर पूछ लेते हैं तो अपने घर का बिजनेस है, कैन आई डू दैट. एंड देन पूरी हिम्मत जुटा के आई वेंट टू हिम एंड आई सेड कैन आई ज्वाइन. तो 2 साल से वो फील्डिंग लगा के बैठे थे. ही सेड आजा बेटा, एंड दैट इज हाउ आई गॉट स्टार्टेड. और वहाँ से एक्चुअली आई हैड माय फर्स्ट, जैसे कहते हैं ना, एंट्री इनटू द बिजनेस world, so to say. So my father was technically my mentor in the business. He was also my sponsor in the business, and he was like 2 years my senior. But
Yeah, I have few questions here.
Sure.
The first is something as important as education, where we spend 15 years at least for a graduation and post-graduation another few years. Something as that, we just decide because somebody suggested us, or we just decide so that we can get a piece of paper to show to the world we are graduates. Is that
Generally, that is the sense, because when you take admission for any course, quote unquote, it is expected that the institution will teach you the necessary skills to go out and become employable. But that hardly is the case. मतलब बहुत बार ऐसे होता है कि आप कॉलेज में तो एडमिशन लेते हैं, यू ऑल्सो वॉन्ट टू लिव द कॉलेज लाइफ, एंड देन देखते ही देखते समय बीतने लगता है एंड यू आर लाइक, ओ माय गॉड, मैंने सीखा तो कुछ नहीं है, और जो भी मैंने सीखा है उसके दम पर मुझको नौकरी तो कुछ मिलने वाली है नहीं, देन व्हाट डिड आई डू फॉर दीज 3 years? तो चलो ग्रेजुएशन से जो नहीं हो सका, लेट मी ट्राई टू डू इट विथ पोस्ट ग्रेजुएशन. सो फिर पोस्ट ग्रेजुएशन हम लोग करते हैं, बट बिटवीन ग्रेजुएशन एंड पोस्ट ग्रेजुएशन the situation changes so dramatically कि post graduation में there is no teaching as such.
Yes.
You are expected to learn on your own. You are expected to hustle.
Grown up.
Yeah, absolutely. But the expectation is that of a grown-up person, but you are not grown up as yet. So again, वो 2 साल भी कैसे चले जाते हैं वो समझ में नहीं आता. And we have hundreds and thousands of graduates plus postgraduates who really don't have the basic skills of the education that they have taken. And I would say the blame is 50%. 50% on the institutions because they say that they will teach A, B, C, D, but they don't. And 50% on the students because most of the times they don't know what is it that they are really looking for.
Yeah,
Another thing is emphasizing so much on our education, and 15 years आप पढ़ाई किया, post graduation, another 2 years. What sort of salary you were getting when you were applying as a graduate or a postgraduate?
All right. So the first job I could have got, जहाँ पर मुझे रखा जाता काम पे, that was around 5,000 rupees a month because they were in no mood to hire me. They were just going to try me out. And अगर मैं अच्छा निकलता, तो they would have given me 15,000. And then God knows कब मेरा increment होता because everything was on the whim and fancy of the producer or whatever house that I would join.
Production.
Yeah.
Gauri, what about your part of education?
So,
By the way, let me also give you a little bit of a heads up because her journey is dramatically different than mine, and hers is a much better journey to listen to. Yeah.
I understand from your education and the whole thing, your price of your education was actually Gauri.
You can say that. You can say that. That's the price.
The whole thing. So a lot of times we do not achieve much in life, but we achieve much in life when we are driven by a goal. And Niranjan proves that when he was not driven by a goal, he was not able to even find a job properly. But as soon as a goal came in his life, which is Gauri, he started throwing his hand around and he started getting a job and he started looking for something and he landed up into being an entrepreneur with his father. So guys, goal driven is very good. Look for a Gauri in your life.
Thanks, Hemang. That is very flattering. But my part of the journey was pretty straightforward, actually. It was not so much of a drama as was with him. Because like he mentioned, my parents are doctors, and being in a family where there's a lot of premium on education, I grew up with those values also. So very early on, I knew in a way what I wanted to do. मेरे साथ ऐसे कोई uncertainty नहीं थी because right from the time when I was in school, I was interested in a certain subject. I was interested in design, in art, and so I carried that forward. My parents only had one condition. They never pressurized me to go for medicine or anything like that. They just had one condition, is that you should be good or you should try to be the best at what you do. मीडियोक्रेसी के लिए हमारे घर में कोई जगह नहीं थी, एंड सेकेंडली just to stick to what you do. And this is a very typical mindset that is planted very early on, I think, in a lot of homes where there's very little room for experimentation. So it is expected that you start learning, you start doing something, and then you get better at it. As you go ahead, you get better at it. So you are basically cast in a certain way, and it prevents you from thinking differently. But this was good for as long as it was good, in the sense that we met at the time of post-graduation. At that time, I already had a part-time job because I had studied commercial arts. It was a very application-oriented course that I had done. And based on that, I had a job. It was paying me very well. I started, my stipend was 10,000. In 6 months, they moved me to 30,000. And then in less than a year, I was earning about 65,000 per month, which was
A
absolutely
lot of money. And 20 years back, that was really a lot of money.
You didn't have to work actually.
I had to get married. I had to show that I was earning something.
So I think we had triple pressure of 2 doctors and a 65,000
Seriously,
salary.
Yeah.
seriously.
Totally.
But did your parents expected you to be a doctor or not really?
Not really. I think they knew that my kind of intelligence was a little different. I was not the bookish kinds, and I was very vocal about what I wanted to do, and they were okay with it. Like I said, their only condition was to study well, go into the best institute. So I got admission in JJ School of Arts. They were very happy with that. Everything was working perfectly fine. I had a good job. Even before we passed out of college, I had a job already, and everything was going good. And to be very honest with you, for me, business was, that word just existed around me. But it never ever occurred to me that I would do or I could do anything in that field, because there was no need for me to do it. So, like I said, this kind of a caste that you're put into is good for as long as it goes. But I feel that the moment things change, whenever you are in a caste, you are in a most vulnerable spot, because when you are in a caste, you only know that skill, you only know that environment, you only know what you have been doing for all the, so the flexibility and, something that business really teaches you, that is something that is missing in a person who sticks to a job. So if everything is okay, things are good. But the moment there is environmental change, there is a challenge, there is something that changes on your personal front, then there is a big question about how exactly am I going to mitigate, which in our journey together, I was finding that while doing the business, he was becoming better in the sense that he was becoming more flexible. His understanding had started increasing. Exactly.
More.
And
And probably the income might not be growing that much, but as a person, he was growing as a better person.
absolutely. He was better able to express himself. For me, it was just going to a place, sitting at a desk for about 8, 10, 12 hours, coming back home. But with him, he was thinking about many different topics simultaneously. And I was noticing that even though he had his challenges, there were insecurities. Of course, business was not smooth in the beginning at all. But there was a very stark difference between the way I was thinking, which was very, save the money, whatever is coming in, save it, don't spend it. Whereas he was more towards, let's buy this course, let's, invest here, learn more.
So when you're like in a job, the mindset is like okay, I learn this much, so I need because I
Absolutely.
need this much, and I'll save this much,
Yeah.
and eventually my salary will rise.
Absolutely.
And I'll buy this and I'll buy that and I'll
Correct.
go for this vacation. But as soon as I think I understand, when you get into a business, even if it is uncertain, you're thinking out of the box. You not just close the doors, but you open all the doors and the windows and wherever the option is to get more and more coming in. So that even if you don't make big money in the beginning, you are trying to learn, because the skills what you're learning eventually is going to take you somewhere.
100%.
I feel the environment plays a very important role. Everybody who's in a job always fancies this idea कि अपना एक खुद का business होना चाहिए. But a lot of times, first generation business people like my father and myself, we are first generation business people. So we often miss out on the point कि एक successful business अगर आपकी family में चल रहा है, तो your family also sort of organizes itself around the business. Now, I'll just give you a very simple example. In traditional, in business families, the women folk are somebody who completely manage the house, and the men are supposed to get out of the house as soon as possible. When the men are out, the women completely manage the home, so the man is absolutely not bothered about what's going at home because it's been taken care of. So he has that peace of mind. But then, if the women folk are taking this responsibility, it's expected of the man to really perform good out of the house and bring in home whatever is required to support the household. Now, this division of labor sometimes, I'm just giving you an example, but in people who have gotten into the business very fresh, this sort of a division of labor, and it need not be a physical division of labor, just the understanding that in business, one has to focus completely on the running of the business part, and there are some aspects of your life which are going to take a sort of a back seat. For example, for a business person, there is no regular weekends that happens. For a business person, in the initial period, आप इतनी ज़्यादा छुट्टी नहीं ले सकते. You can't go on vacations because you don't have money. I still remember my classmate and me who studied together in school. He was not in the business at that time. He was basically doing a job. And because he was well placed, because he was an MBA, he was well placed, he had his credit card. And I still remember that when he got married, he was able to take his wife for a honeymoon to Singapore, Malaysia, and all of these other countries because he had a credit card which he could swipe. But at that time, because Gauri and I, we were both struggling, all we could manage was put together some money which we got as gifts in our own marriage, and barely we could have a 4-day honeymoon in Goa. But that is how things are. But then you need an environment which tells you that, boss, this is how a business person's life is, and it's okay to be that way. If you don't have feedback from around you which tells you that it's okay to not earn a lot of money in the initial phase, a lot of business people start getting very anxious because
start
the money
doubting the
doesn't come in.
process.
And in a middle class, or I would say in a sort of नौकरी पेशा home, generally हर महीने कितने आ रहे हैं उसके हिसाब से आप ठीक कर रहे हैं या नहीं कर रहे, इसका हिसाब लगता है. So if there is not a certain amount being credited in your account every month, then I guess you're not doing well.
I think your salary is equal to the respect you earn in the house and people around.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And that's really strange way of looking at it. Coming back to your journey to coming into the business with your dad, coming from a Naukri Pesha wala house and your dad retiring and deciding to get into a business, and now he's your mentor.
Correct.
Where he's been doing it only for 2 years.
Yeah.
So it's like a professor of financial planning teaching me how to become successful and do my financial planning in college with
Correct.
probably making a 30,000 salary.
Correct.
So now tell us what happened there, how did you come? And I think it was a big relief, at least in one way, that your father is your mentor and you're joining him. So the pressure of performance goes down, which you would have had if you took up a job कि भाई कितनी salary बढ़ गई या कितना ये हो गया. Or tell us about all that.
It was a mixed bag of feelings at that time. On the one hand, you have your father who is also your mentor into the business. But at the same time, you are also young, and there is also this generation gap, and there are obviously going to be some fireworks going around, at the most unopportune moment, so to say. And one more thing about, particularly in our situation, is that we were over sentimental about the business. In the sense, we were into the business because of the idea of business. कि अपने को business करना है, business करने से बड़ा पैसा आएगा, and stuff like that. But we actually, in the initial phases, we did not know about the nuts and bolts, how a business is actually built. We just thought by the very fact that we are into the business अपने आप होने लगेगा. And we were very, emotional at times. We were very sentimental at times. कि कुछ हुआ तो उसको बहुत ज़्यादा खुशी मनाना है, कुछ नहीं हुआ तो उसके बारे में बहुत ज़्यादा दुख करना है. And these things always kept us on tenter hooks about the business. मतलब ऐसा कोई समय आया ही नहीं कि मतलब इनिशियल पीरियड में जब हम कहते थे कि यार बिजनेस अच्छा चल रहा है पर इसको और भी बेहतर कर सकते हैं. इट वॉज आइदर हियर और हियर एंड देन हियर और हियर. सो ये रोलर कोस्टर से देयर वॉज अ लॉट ऑफ एंग्जाइटी दैट वॉज बीइंग बिल्ड, एंड अ लॉट ऑफ टाइम इफ यू आर anxiety prone, it starts planting doubts in your mind कि यार वाकई में क्या ये बिजनेस हो सकेगा, क्या are we really cut out for business? बेहतर नहीं होता कि हम लोग नौकरी करते, थोड़ा अच्छा रहता. These type of doubts keep coming. I still remember it was so funny that I was 3 years into the business and my mom used to cut out job application
Newspaper
ads from the
cuttings.
newspaper
Really?
and hand it over to me. यार इसको भी जाकर एक बार देख लो, कुछ हो सकेगा तो पार्ट टाइम करने में क्या हर्ज है वगैरह.
But how did your dad react to that? Because you were in business with your dad.
So dad, it so happened that dad had already been to a lot of training programs as part of the business, and he had seen that vision. So he was quite steady as far as the income is concerned. But you know what happened is that because we were first generation, we were not very good at financial management. We were not very good at handling the money that we were getting. And it's always, business is just a one line story. How much are you getting and how much are you spending? If you have something left with you, you are in profit. If you have nothing left with you, business is in loss. So it was a very straight understanding, but we did not have that. We always were into the business for the future. कि एक दिन जरूर आएगा, एक दिन जरूर आएगा, अपना टाइम आएगा. So it was a very, I would say, a typical gambler's attitude that we were, having. कि आज मेरा पत्ता चल जाएगा तो आज
तीन पत्ती में तीन एक का.
Exactly. And we were just hoping, and we were just, बैंकिंग ऑन द फ्यूचर कि ये महीने नहीं हुआ तो नेक्स्ट महीना जरूर होएगा, इतने सारे लोगों का हो रहा है, अपना क्यों नहीं होगा. बट इट इज वन थिंग टू हैव दिस होप, but it is another thing to have hope and keep spending money for that hope. If we were just hopeful and if we were to just keep working, it was okay. But we were also spending money thinking कि अगर आज पैसा spend करेंगे तो कल जाके उसमें से और ज़्यादा पैसे आएंगे.
कब तक चला? How long did it? You kept on spending money. Nothing was happening. Even if there was a system, your dad also went to trainings. I'm
Yeah.
sure you did.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you were. It's not that you didn't understand everything, but you were working hard. You were trying to do everything what they were telling you. You were trying to understand everything. But I mean, you are fairly educated. You're not like,
Yeah.
It's not something that we explain you and you will not understand. You seem
Yeah.
to be
Yeah.
very well educated. You understand the game and you are into it. So how long did it go, and
So
what sort of are you talking money you putting?
So
I mean, I think Gauri's like getting impatient कि मुझे बोलना है, but
Yes, because
we'll come to
because I have to tell you that when all this spending of money and things were going on, I would always ask him exactly this question: how long is this going to go on? Because you can't try the business forever, right? You sometime have to get the business. So I didn't want to put any kind of a pressure, because under pressure, it's not good to have a family who pressurizes you. So I was trying to go easy, but every now and again I would ask him, how long is this going to go on? Kab tak ye chalega? And his only answer used to be, watch this for the next 3 months, 3 mahine baad and 3 mahine baad.
कितने साल बोला?
I think I've lost track of that.
But you still doing your job?
Yes.
On the safe side?
I was doing my job, yes, but there was a time, when we had our daughter, and she was, she needed a lot of attention. So there was a time when I had a job, but that job which I was doing very passionately and very successfully, suddenly there was, a lot of limitation on how much I could spend time outside of the house. So I really couldn't do this 9 to 9 sort of a job, leaving my daughter at home. So this was the exact time when I had to ask him even more. When will your business take off so that I can take it a little easy and spend time with our little girl? So it was a very difficult situation when, yes, we were going through trainings. And he was going through a lot of learning, reading books and things like that. But there is a difference between knowing things and there is a difference between actually being able to take action, which will get some results. I think that is a very different, area where not many people find that, people can go through trainings, they can attend millions of trainings, but the real test of the whole training is how much you can come back, how much you can implement, and really get results out of it. Because at the end of the day, if there are results, then your business is working. So we had come to a point where I was asking him questions about, why don't we do something else? Let's think about whether we really want to do business, because definitely we just can't keep trying. Either you need some more help, look for somebody who's already been successful, ask them, go and get more training, and just figure out a way, is what I kept telling him.
But did you guys discuss something before planning to have a child? Or because you had a job, you were like, okay, at least we can have a child. I have a salary coming.
Yeah, pretty much it was like that. Yeah, and generally in our kind of homes, there is a certain time frame in which you must have a child. So it was like a, that kind of a
And
thing.
we were also made to believe, in the sense, it was not something that was a make believe. We had clear cut support for that. We were given the assurance that even if we do have a child, the child will be taken care of in some, one way or the other. But at the same time, we also knew our own responsibility, in the sense we couldn't, keep piling on our parents forever. और टू आंसर योर क्वेश्चन, ये कब तक चलता रहा? तो जब तक पैसा था तब तक चलता रहा. जब पैसा खत्म हो गया, we had to take a very hard look at what we had done. And this because there is no discipline in managing your finances, and if you also have a credit card in hand, it is like you are a complete drunkard and you have a loaded pistol in your hand. And that's exactly what happened with us. We just went about on a rampage, swiping our card at every opportune
And
moment.
this was not for some luxury that we were, these were necessary things. Just because we didn't have the money to, buy the things we needed, they were basic necessities. So
And
we ended up
in a business like ours, the training programs create a lot of hope. And you always feel कि ये एक training program अगर हम कर लेना तो सारा problem sort हो जाएगा. And then that training program is never enough. Why? Because you never come back and implement those trainings. Then what you feel is that ये कमी भरने के लिए there is always another training program.
And you're always looking for some secret, somebody, some place where you'll find that.
Is it the content in the training, or the way they teach you about the system in the training, or is it someone's story that you think कि अच्छा इसका हुआ तो मेरा होगा, or is it like a combination?
I think it's a little bit of
Are you
everything.
looking for from a training like a secret, or are you looking for a little more?
See, if a person is wanting to do this business, managing a job, or if the person is getting into a business for the very first time, the person doesn't only require training. The person needs to have a very clear-cut structure of working on a daily basis. So you need the training which tells you what needs to be done. Then you need a structure to tell you how much and how frequently or how regularly should you be doing that. But then there also has to be some sort of a supervision structure, some sort of an accountability structure, which keeps tab on whether you are really doing it or not. See, the kind of business that we are into, you can get started with a very small amount. But that small amount never stays small if you are never good at managing the money. So at one point in time, because of our accumulated debts, we had accumulated a debt close to 1 crore rupees, and this is I'm talking about 17 years back. And because we kept converting that credit into loan and we kept paying the minimum amount, the whole thing started accumulating. And at one point in time, we had a monthly outgoing only towards the loan payment of 1,25,000 rupees.
And you're talking this like 20 years ago.
Almost 20 years.
And when the income was negligible.
Negligible.
So in today's value, if you take that loan, it's way like 3 times.
Absolutely.
Right,
Absolutely.
right. And it's like being in a dream. You never realize how did you enter into this dream. You suddenly wake up into the dream. So it was something like that while we were accumulating the debts, we never realized that it's going to amount to something that is really tremendous. But one fine day when the whole thing hit us, like
Did it hit you?
It did.
Did it hit her first, or did it hit you?
It actually-
or your dad?
It actually hit her, and then she hit me, and then it hit everybody else.
I was expecting that, because usually it doesn't hit the men for
Yeah,
some reason.
yeah.
We
We are eternally romantic, eternally hopeful.
like we are romantic with our businesses.
Correct.
And we need to be more romantic with our women.
Right. I know. And
I think she will agree.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing was that because I had spent a lot of time, by that time I was with him and I knew I was watching the business, though I was not doing the business.
You were watching the business from outside, and
Yes.
third party, like it's like she's got a helicopter view of what is happening on the other side
Yes.
of the wall.
Yes.
Where because you're on the other side, you can't see any problem there.
Correct.
You just see a hope, you see a dream, future.
And that is where I would like to come back to the point that a person who's getting into the business needs to get into the business for the right reasons. If you are in the business because you have some, कैसे कहते हैं, an unfulfilled desire in your mind कि मेरे को business करके देखना है, then all of this becomes a gamble. But if you are into the business for the right reasons, that is making money from the business, then you pay much careful attention towards what's coming out of the business. I was not oriented towards that. I was just very thrilled and happy with the very fact that I am in the business.
For you, I think the whole thing was that I am an entrepreneur.
Correct.
I am a business owner.
Correct.
And that made a big deal out of it. And that was like, wow, I am a businessman. So anybody will ask you what you're doing. I am a businessman.
Correct.
Nobody expects you not to make money.
Correct.
And more than that, I am a businessman, so business will happen and I will get money. So it was pretty much for him, and it was like an analogy that the moment I start doing the business, the money is going to come. Because there was no understanding, he did not realize that there are certain things that need to be done in a certain way so that the business really happens. Just by being in the business, you cannot guarantee, the money, and that's exactly what was going
A
on.
lot of times I feel because we attend all the trainings or we go through a system or we try to implement that or we are in the business for 3 years, 5 years, we assume that now things will happen because I deserve it.
Yes.
Right.
Because I've spent my time, energy, money,
Exactly.
and it justifies you to actually have it. And why are we not having it? I don't know.
But Himang, this sort of a thinking or a mindset actually comes because of being in a job background. Because in a job, you have time-based incrementals to your salary. That means if you have spent this much amount of time in a job, it is a given that you will get an increment in your salary. And the same logic never applies into the business because the business pays you directly in proportion to the value that you bring into the marketplace. It doesn't pay you for the amount of time that you have been spending into the business. And this is where I think the conflict really starts taking root because she was in a job and she was getting her regular increments, not because she was not doing anything and still getting increments. She was a good performer in her job. But then somewhat she also expected the same from this business. अरे 3 साल हो गए हैं, अभी तो दिखना चाहिए, इतना समय हो गया है, कुछ तो दिखना चाहिए. And to be very honest, I had no answer because mistake was definitely on my part, but I did not have an answer to give her at that point in time. The whole argument came to such a head at one point in time that she demanded that I completely stop this business and start looking for a job. And at that point in time, I had to very candidly confess to her that, I won't be able to do a job because nobody can actually employ me for a job right now. So that is what I got into.
Next point I want to ask you is when did you decide to jump into the business or what changed for you guys or what did you decide? How are we going to fix this? Because you said that she nearly told you to go and get a job. So
yeah, it was not a decision as such. It was more of a
Threat.
Yes, I was. It was a threat because I just had enough, and like I said, now we had a daughter and I had to look after her, and I wanted to look after her. It was not that I had to, but you have a child so that you can raise the child, you can spend good time with the baby, and I wasn't able to do any of this. So ultimately, I said, all right, let me do a part-time job. Let me talk to my boss and say that I'll only work part-time. And he agreed, luckily. So instead of going full-time, I started going for 4 to 5 hours. And then they said that, okay, since now you're only coming part-time, we will change you from being an employee to a consultant. So they removed me off the roles and they started paying me as a consultant.
On an hourly basis.
On an hourly basis. And I was okay with that because, I was getting exactly half of my salary. On paper, they had promised me half of my salary. But I said, at least I'm getting, some money is coming in the house. At the same time, I'll be able to spend time. So for me, it was like the best thing that I could do at that time. So I started doing that. And you won't believe it, Hemang, when I did that for a month. And at the end of the month, they gave me my salary slip. And I was so shocked because I only got 1/4 of the amount that was promised to me. And, I said, this doesn't match. So I went up to the HR and I said that, how does this doesn't match? So they said that now since you're a consultant, every time you swipe out and swipe in, your money is going to get cut now, because now it's on an hourly basis. So I said, but the thing is that the coffee machine is outside of our, the bay,
Yeah.
and I have to swipe out and swipe in. They said that, that's your problem. And for me, it was so shocking. It was a very, was it like a big thing? No, but for me, I had spent a lot of time in the company that I was working. I had really invested a lot of my efforts and put my heart into what I was doing, and really worked very hard when the company was coming up. And the same company now, only because of the change in role, forgets about everything that you have done for them. And I came back, and I really, that evening was, I was very miserable because I sort of felt very cheated. And then but at the same time, like I mentioned earlier, I was, and you said rightly, I was looking at the business from a distance. And this is what I realized, that the business as a concept is, where you work for yourself. You're not now working for a boss, this kind of a boss who doesn't understand your situation, who is not ready to give you any leeway for you to basically, manage things, and appreciate that you really worked hard when the company was coming up. So there is no emotional aspect there. You are just treated as a resource.
Yes.
But, and you basically, it's just a matter of a second when the company can change your profile, change everything, and nothing is in your control. So all of these years, I was feeling that I am in control of my income, I am in control of the things that are happening. That's not the case with him, because, very honestly, there is a comparison that goes on. And that evening, I realized that I am working for somebody else, putting all my controls in somebody else's hands. That person can decide my future and my happiness. But in this business, he doesn't have a job. He can decide what he wants to do, when he wants to work. And at the same time, because I was looking at the business from a third person point of view, having discussions and all that, but not really being involved in the business, I knew for sure that as a concept, running a business is much more, makes better sense. So there's nothing wrong with the business as such. Maybe our decisions were wrong. Maybe how they were running the business was wrong.
The principle of being an entrepreneur is not a bad idea.
Exactly.
But understanding what system works for you and how to make money out of that system, where you can bring in some profits into your business,
Yes.
and how this whole thing can
Yes.
be profitable quickly and not lose the money you
Right.
lost. That's a lot of
So-
money you lost.
Absolutely.
There, I would like to also
Yeah.
give a lot of credit to the kind of training programs that we used to have. Because in the training programs, they always helped us to get our mindset right about the business. Because they said that if you are ready to accept being underpaid for a short amount of time, if you are ready to be okay paid for a medium amount of time, then you can be overpaid for an unlimited amount of time. And I was ready to do that. I said that, yes, I'm ready to get overpaid for a long time. And for that, if I have to be underpaid for a short time, I'm fine with that. But I had seen this vision, she had not. And that is why there was this conflict of understanding. And since my results were not very encouraging, I could not convince her of that. But then when the situation in her own life changed, so earlier there were just two people who did not know what was going on, and now we were, we were three people who did not know what was going on. But as they say, whenever there are more minds that come into play, automatically things start changing, and that's precisely what started happening. When
And
she
this
entered
shift
this.
also happened again because of a certain training. I had decided that I won't go and apply for another job because it's pretty much going to be the same thing. So I decided, with my mother-in-law's help and support, that I said that let me, take a break at least for 6 months. Whatever income I had made, I can survive on that, and things we can make do with that. So I'll just take a break for some time. I'll just think about what I want to do. And in those 6 months, I happened to attend a training with Niranjan, and in that training itself, I realized that there is a certain method to do this business. Everything doesn't have to run on emotion and motivation and exactly. So, and because I had come from a very structured sort of that really appealed to me. The structure in the business, the way you can build it, the way you can, evaluate things every now and then, analyze things, look at your numbers. So, and I realized that this is the part that we are completely missing out on. And every time I spoke to him, it was all about the emotion and motivation and the big picture and things
You
like
saw
that.
the opposite things what you saw in the business.
Yes.
Because you were seeing the business from outside.
Exactly.
You were not emotional about it.
Yes.
You could see the structure.
Correct.
And implementation is missing. The accountability is missing. But all he could see is he is only emotional about it.
Yes.
And he is sold on this promise के अपना टाइम आएगा स्टार्टिंग में कुछ साल तो किसी का नहीं आता है.
Correct.
And you understood that there is no such thing कि अपना time आएगा and you don't need that many long years, because the missing piece is he cannot see it. He's blinded by this dream of
Exactly.
And it's like, can you ever see anything that is exactly behind your head? The answer is no, you can never see that. But can somebody else see it? Absolutely yes. So when we had another set of eyes looking at the business, that was when things really started.
So I didn't have a lot of business understanding by that time, but one thing was very sure. I told him that, look, we need to learn this business properly, because unless we learn, unless we go through some kind of a personal development, some kind of a understanding about the technical aspects of the business, this is not going to work, because business won't happen on its own. We will have to make it work. So that's when I decided that, let me come in. We'll try to figure this out together. So I said, I'll take a sabbatical from my job for 6 months. Let's do this together. We'll see what we can do. And that's how actually I got started, and the rest is history.
So, breaking it down to 3 points, what do you think was the reason for these guys trying very hard for so many years and failing badly?
The first and most important thing I would say is that there was no system or structure which they could follow. Everything was very volatile. Everything kept changing all the time. And in business, change is inevitable, but it cannot happen on a daily basis. So there was no, whether you want to call it a funnel, whether you want to call it a structure, whether you want to call it like a system,
business flow.
Whatever.
In different businesses, it's called differently. But there has to be a certain step-by-step method to doing things. Because if there is no step-by-step method, then you don't know what to do next. And that is the most confusing part about the business. When you don't know what to do next, you are just taken in different directions. You become part of somebody else's plan. You become always, every day is something new. And then this kind of an anxiety comes in, because you cannot predict anything.
Yeah.
And if you can't predict, then there is no way in which you can really build or succeed year after year. So it's all left to the birds can just come and take the seeds away if you don't sow it properly. So we had to really understand the land, the law of the land properly, cultivate all of the things, learn how to work with people. That was one of the, because in business, it's not just about us, but we also build teams. You have, a workforce that works with you. You are responsible for their success when you bring them on. So all of these things, there was a lot of learning that we had to do. So the first thing that we were missing out was a structure. Secondly, I think a mentor is very, very important, because you have to have somebody who not just guides you from time to time, but also holds you accountable, calls you out, points out your mistakes, brings you, if you start flying a little high when you have that initial success, brings you to a level to say that there is still a lot to be done, and also to show you a vision of how things can be in another 10-20 years. So you're not just, it's not like it's not your imagination. Business cannot be imagination at all times, but it has to be grounded with reality. So we were definitely missing that strong mentorship. And we did attend trainings, but it was generalized. But you need to have somebody who understands your context, your environment, your mindset. So that was the second most important thing that we were missing out. And the third thing that we sort of missed at that time was, of course now I can say, but at that time we were in this whole problem situation, we had become very serious about everything. We had forgotten about living life at all. So it was, that stress and that worry, that anxiety, it was showing on our faces, and it was controlling the way we were, doing everything, the way we were standing, sitting, walking, things like that. So that that element of spontaneity, that element of having, I can't say fun, it's you in business it's difficult to have fun initially, but lighter moments.
Yeah, it's like you are playing with your kid and the whole thing is so beautiful, but you are not there.
Yes.
Yeah, you're always worried about
You're
what's
always
going to
worried
happen
about,
next.
okay, why, what will happen? I have to pay this money, and then this is not working. But your child is like, playing with you, and you should enjoy that moment because
Yes.
he's going to grow up after some years, and that moment is not going
Yes.
to come. But you are not there.
Absolutely.
You're just absolutely missing out the most precious.
Correct.
moment.
So we would go on, one or, a couple of small vacations for a couple of days. And when we were out, we kept thinking of the business. When we were doing the business, we kept thinking of how, we are working 24/7. So it was those moments we really, had to bring back in our lives. We didn't get married to, be stressed. We got married to, spend a good time together. And that was something that we were missing out on.
I would summarize the last part as your mindset,
Mhm.
because the mindset actually changes the whole way you look at the business. You come out with a different mindset because you're working in a particular job you bought, and your parents raised you in a different way, so you have this mindset. And then you're trying to do a business for so many years, so the mindset is very different. And now the business is not working for so many years, so your mindset becomes really bad, and then you have all these loans and you're trying to make your end meets, and the whole house is actually trying to run a business which is not working for many years. So mindset is very important. I think a big success of your life, any business, even in your life, comes from your mindset, and that's why I think that's the first thing we all need to work. So what changed? How did things change? What happened?
So you call it superstition or whatever, I don't know, but the cliche is very true that when the student is ready, the teacher appears, and when you have absolutely hit the rock bottom, you come to a sort of a bent of your mind which says that अभी इससे नीचे और नहीं जा
इससे
सकते
बुरा कुछ नहीं
हाँ,
Rock
इससे बुरा
bottom.
और कुछ नहीं हो सकता अभी जो होगा वो अच्छा ही होगा. And when you start opening up to suggestions, when you start opening up to mentorship, when you start opening up to hearing a different voice telling you what needs to be done, that voice really comes. And we are so fortunate, and for all our viewers who are listening to this, that voice came in the form of Himang and Raki, of course. And Himang, what he did with us, not that we are just saying it to your face, but we would like to tell you because we sometimes also talk amongst ourselves that what exactly happened that things started changing. And when we get into this deconstruction mode because we want to understand what really happens, so this is what our inference or conclusion from that is that so Himang never was a mentor as such. That means he never came and declared himself to be our mentor. Guys, from tomorrow onwards, you are going to be under my charge and I'm going to take care of you. Nothing of that sort happened. The first thing that happened, which was very beautiful, is that we developed a very nice and a very respectable sort of a friendship, and that was really very helpful for us because being in the business, the kind of business we are, we had only uplines or we had downlines, but we had nobody who could be at par with us or could relate to us as friends, and not somebody who we had to look up to and that person would look down.
No friends in the business.
Yeah.
Either your competitors.
Correct. And you know what? A friend never advises. A friend only suggests. And if the suggestion is given at the right moment, it really sort of holds ground. And that's exactly what happened to us. We were in such a vulnerable position at that time. And you all you did was make a few suggestions here and there. And those suggestions also never came as, look, guys, this is what I want to suggest. They were just conversations that we were happening, and that's the difference between a coach and a mentor. A coach is somebody who's always on the sidelines and he is shouting instructions from the sidelines to the players who are playing in the field. But a mentor is somebody who's also doing his own business, and a mentor is very happy to invite you into his home, invite you into his life, and he just asks you to take a look at how he is doing things. And if there is something of value that you find, you're most welcome to take it from over here. And that is what I loved the most. Himang was so open that he would invite us to his home, and this is how I close my client. This is how I speak to my associates, and we were most welcome to come and take a look. And we learned a lot by observing how you and Rakhi were working your business, and there was a lot to learn from that. And if somebody had put us, if somebody was to make us sit down and listen, this is how you need to do, our ego and our age at that time would have prevented us from taking those suggestions. But since it was not advice and it was just suggestions, try karke dekhna hai to dekh lo, काम किया तो किया, otherwise नहीं किया.
इससे बुरा क्या होगा?
Yeah,
इससे
there
बुरा
was
क्या होगा?
exactly.
So that really took the steam off our minds.
The
and
pressure was off,
absolutely.
basically.
It was like the whistle being taken out of the pressure cooker, and all the steam was completely going off. And at that point in time, we started really understanding how this business done. I would say the number one area which you focused on or decided to work with us was our financial management, in the sense the way our...
Oh man, you needed it really.
Absolutely, absolutely.
I remember that incident of Gauri coming to our house, and we told
Yeah.
her to call her customer. You want to say that?
Yes,
Or are
sure,
you
of course,
comfortable with that?
of course. So that was, really, because that was for me, it was, everyday struggle,
Yeah.
normal
She had
struggle.
learned it watching us, and then she's come to our house, and she wanted to like try that, and she was not sure something. And we
I had to just make a call, and and I said, I can't make the call right now. I'll need to just, there's no charge on my phone. I haven't.
She was low on the balance.
I was low on the balance, and I mean, for me, it was so normal that for a day, I did not have a prepaid. Sorry, I had a prepaid. Yeah,
Didn't have a
and the
postpaid.
recharge would be as low as 10 rupees, right? That time.
absolutely. But I would wait till the last moment, and then that was how life was at that time. It was all hand to mouth, cut to cut, things like that, and you kind of really put things in perspective that whatever the case is, you have to be able to earn money. Money has to come in the house, because money will take away a lot of your problems. And if you manage correctly, first of all, learn how money can be earned, and secondly, we will learn how to manage the money that you have already bringing in. But Hemang, more than the money and everything, I think what I really found very valuable in our relationship with you and Rakhi is that spending a lot of time in the business, we also had other people doing the business who were sort of, we were comparing our performance with their performance, right? So, somebody's just started out and they are so successful, it's not happening with us. And, what's wrong with us? What do we not have? What is lacking? So the focus on the lack, or the focus on what we didn't have, was so much that, we failed to bear in mind that there are certain things that we do have, there are certain qualities that we do have. And that's when I think you played a very major role, and you helped us to understand that there is no sense in competing against somebody else. It is you versus you. You try to, I remember your words, and you used to say that you when you go and stand in a queue to buy a certain thing, your position in your own pay plan,
Or your business.
it doesn't matter. What matters is whether you can afford the thing that you want to buy or not. And for that, learn how to focus on the money first, and whatever recognition you want, whatever level in your pay plan, in your business plan, whatever you want, will automatically happen. So we were thinking,
opposite.
the
Yeah.
position first and the money later.
So a lot of effort and money was being spent on looking successful,
Yes.
rather than actually being successful. So this was one very important shift in our mindset which occurred during that time, that a lot of effort was being spent on showing people that we are successful, rather than being successful and earning the kind of money, having the bank balance, keeping quiet about it, and silently enjoying the security that the bank balance really gives. That was one phenomenal takeaway that we could take away.
Actually, I like both of them to narrate two incidences which they didn't know that I created it purposely for them so that they can understand the value of financial management, with the value of financial freedom, and how they can change things in their life and come into that situation one day. Niranjan will tell you an incident about me buying a car, and Gauri will tell you an incident of me going and buying furniture for my house.
Absolutely.
So it so happened that Himang had shifted into our city, and he was trying to, stay in the city for a while and build his business along with us. So obviously, to go around, he needed a car because he had sold off his car from his previous place, and he needed to have some way he could go around. And we went out to buy a car, and Hewang was dressed most casually as he, usually is. And I was completely prim and proper because how could you go to buy a car in casual clothing? And it so happened that the car salesman was constantly speaking with me. He had made up his mind that I am the person who is buying the car and I am just tagged this person along with me, which was actually not the case. And after some point, I had to tell him, boss, इनको कार खरीदनी है, मैं इनके साथ आया हूँ. And that was the time I figured out that it's not how you look, but actually how much money you have in your bank that really makes the difference. So that incident really, because we were in the car showroom for about 10 minutes max, because all we wanted to know that, does this thing work? How many people can sit in this? What is the mileage? And once these things
Will
were,
you give me tomorrow?
will you give it to
was
me
the most
tomorrow?
important.
Because I am ready to pay you full cash. In the sense, the car salesman was completely shocked to know that we were not going in for a loan. And we said that we can pay you at one stroke. And that point in time, I understood the power of having a strong bank balance. You know, the whole pretense of looking successful and actually being successful, that was the time when I understood the difference between the two.
Actually, the car salesman was more shocked that this guy in shorts and slippers is going to pay me this money for the car, and not that this good-looking guy who's dressed in formal. And that was a substantial amount of money. In fact, he was not ready to take the check. He went to the bank and confirmed whether I have that money in the account to actually let me take that car.
Correct. So that is why the car delivery was delayed by 2 days, because he had to verify whether the amount really gets credited or not.
For us, it was, it was like we had never.
No, but the
even,
furniture thing is even
absolutely.
more interesting.
So I was not there when the car was bought,
Purposely didn't take it.
but I know I wouldn't have been able to take the shock. I think
You wouldn't have been able to connect with a car, but you would be able to connect with the furniture.
Absolutely.
Because like he said, that's your area and that's his area.
Correct.
Boys and girls have different mindset of money.
Exactly. So I remember 3 of us walking into the furniture showroom, and Hemang asking me, so what would you recommend? What would you suggest? Like we 3 of us, Rakhi, me, and Shamik, and what all do you think we would need?
We were going to stay, and I think only 2 of us went to the showroom.
Yes,
They had not come yet.
Correct. So, and the house was this is the kind of house, and
Same house as yours.
same house. So let's see what all we can buy. So I said, okay, this is nice. Generally in our kind of homes, you go to 10 showrooms, and then you spend 7 days to think about it. Then you call for some brochures, and then you look at your budget, you look at these, you look for some package discounts, you haggle with the shopkeeper.
And then whatever you want to buy, you buy it over a period of 7 months.
Exactly.
ये महीने में ये लेते हैं, फिर दूसरे
or you make
महीने में
EMIs and things like that, and that's normal. So I said, okay, and I was, so in that whole casual, because I thought that we would visit another couple of showrooms. So I said, okay, this looks good, even this looks good, this is fine, this looks good. And I was hardly like, it was, and then
hardly 1 minute too.
In about
pointed out to
5-10 minutes, the next thing I know is Hemang is near at the, sitting at the table with the lady, the owner, and he is writing a check and saying, okay, have it delivered. If everything is there in the showroom, you can have it delivered today itself. Else in the coming. And I had to go and I had to really look at what is happening, and I was so shocked that we had bought furniture, the entire house furniture. I think it was worth around
Whatever.
four, three and a half,
I
four,
don't
five
remember
lakhs, that kind of money. And it was just a check, or I don't even remember whether it was a check or a card. It was just done. Everything was bought. And for me, it was, that is when I realized I had my moment, and I realized that the power of
You
having.
selected all that furniture.
Absolutely. Not knowing that it would be bought in the next 1.5 minutes. So it was, it was really,
And
I'll
that
never
really-
forget that
yeah,
emotion.
and that really opened our eyes to the vision of what this business can really give us. In the sense, if that's the kind of power that the business can give you by having that sort of a bank balance, we said that, boss, we need to really, really get to this level where we can afford something like that without pretending that we can afford. It's finally how much money we have in the bank that is going to get us what we want. And from that day onward, we started really changing the ways in which we were doing our business.
Because I also realized that this is what we just did was for a car or furniture, but tomorrow we could be able to do the same to help somebody
Yes.
in need. We could do the same to pay, God forbid, but in any kind of a crisis or an emergency. Just imagine, how could you do an EMI in times of an emergency? So the value of earning money, one, saving money, two, and being mindful and wise about generally managing the business well, that is when it came in. And then from that time onwards, we really started paying even more attention to what both of you were telling us time and again. We started implementing things that were most critical in the business, and I think everything changed after that.
And the culmination of all of those efforts, and much more to come, but the culmination right now is that we are having this podcast with Hemang in our new home, which we have bought completely from the income that we generated from our business.
Duplex home.
Duplex. It's a penthouse, by the way.
Penthouse.
And it is all thanks to the small shifts in mindset that Hemang implemented at that time in our life. And we were very fortunate that we had the wisdom to listen to him and really follow through with whatever that has been going on. But more than the teachings and the advice and the suggestion, what we value the most is this rock solid support that Hemang and Rakhi have been providing us through their consistent and unwavering friendship that we have most been fortunate to have with them over a period of so many years. We couldn't have asked for anything more than that. We couldn't have asked for anything more
And
than that.
this is one thing I would definitely like to add to the discussion that we're having, is that both of you not just taught us how to do the business and nuances in the way things work, but we learned a lot about how we could, from your style of leadership, from your style of coaching, from your style of mentoring, we are also able to mentor a lot of our people. And one of the most special things about what we have learned from you is that the more open you are, the better it is. So leadership or mentoring is not about having people to do certain things in a certain way.
Correct.
And having that rigid mindset, but business is more about having a broader vision, taking in a lot of input, but ultimately doing what you want to do, what your intuition says. This is something that again we have learned from you, and it really helps us to become better leaders and mentors for our team. So and this has not happened in it's happened over a period of time. So we really value all the discussions, that every discussion, even if it's a very casual discussion, there's always something that we take away. There's always something, some one or two words, a line, a sentence, something that you give us, and it really helps us multifold. I mean, this is we couldn't really have asked for an all-in-one sort of a thing, a friend, a mentor, and a very special person in our life, for sure.
And we always keep saying, अगर पिछले 20 सालों में हेमांग के साथ रह के अगर इतना हुआ, तो आने वाले 20 सालों में क्या होगा? We can't, we just completely fills our mind with great delight even to think about this idea. So absolutely fantastic. Very grateful to you, my friend. Very grateful.
I also want to say that these two guys have some very special skills which I never had or Raki had. But once they understood how this thing is going, their business started going like crazy. They understood the skill of mentoring and taking care of their people, loving them and becoming their friends. They started putting these special skills they have, and their business has gone to a different height, which is extraordinary. I think they are one of the top guys in their business today in India, and it is very unique some of the things these guys do. So we will like to know from you, uh, after learning all this, what is something special you added in, and what are the main, I would say, 3 or 5 things which you think you learned from me which helped you?
First, very important thing is that leadership is most about showing people the possibilities rather than telling them exactly what needs to be done. If you can just open up possibilities, like you always said, the what if game. What if you do something ABC? Can you imagine what can happen? So helping people to sort of get their imagination run wild is one of the most important things, because once you imagine, then you are also ready to take responsibility for making that imagination come true. So that's one of the most important things. Second thing, what I believe is that leadership should always be led with friendship. It cannot be that you are somebody who commands people to work or behave in a certain way. You are their friend firstly, and if you want to stay as their friend, then the best thing that you can do is only offer suggestion. If the person finds it valid, they will work on that suggestion. If not, you should be cool with that as well. So that is one very important thing. The third thing that I liked, or that we implemented the most, was this business is about building a system. And when we say a system, it should not be that you are the person who's always responsible for making things happen. Once you divide the responsibility amongst people, then people are responsible enough to shoulder that responsibility. If if I was the only person who would be doing everything, then I would only earn so much. But if I help a lot of people to do those many things, then I can earn so much. So this whole concept of delegation, which I learned from you, that has worked wonders for all of us. Otherwise, earlier we used to, तू छोड़ तू मत कर मेरे को दे दे. That was the kind of attitude.
I can do it best.
I can do it best.
No one can do it better than me.
But in this whole effort of doing it the best, we were always the best, and everybody else felt that there is no place for them in this entire equation. इनको ही करने दो, यही सबसे अच्छा करते हैं, and all of them used to be backbenchers. But the day we started delegating responsibility, people also started rising up to the occasion. They started becoming better because now they wanted to prove that they are worth being considered responsible. So that was really wonderful. So these are a couple of things, and there are so many in the
Absolutely.
sense. You can
one
have
thing
5
for me-
podcasts back to back talking about all the things that we learned.
Yeah,
But these are some of the salient things that comes to our mind.
Absolutely. And for me, from the mindset that I have, I often get, I'm the one who, worries the most. If there is any person who worries or has this kind of anxiety attacks, it's always me in our business. And whenever that happens, the first call always, goes to you. When I feel like I've come to a point where I can't handle it, the first call is always to you, because you sort of, in a very few words, put things in perspective. And this is something that we have learned in the style of leadership. We also are trying to do the same with our people, to not blow things out of proportion, to always look at things in context, to understand that in business there are many moving parts. And if you are just calm and composed, and you look at things in a systematical method, in a certain way, in a certain method, you will understand that everything can be changed, is something that you always, give us that message to, Shanti, don't get hassled. And this is a very large part of mentorship that we are trying to inculcate in the way we lead our people. So otherwise, I don't know what I would have done with this kind of anxiety that I had.
Nothing good can ever come out of getting worked up
Yes.
or getting anxious yourself. That was one thing that we have learned. So every situation is going to have its own price to be paid for, but every situation will also bring along a lot of advantages that you can capitalize
And
on.
like you always say, that we are here in this for the long run. This is not a race. this is a marathon, so you can't afford to get burnt out and tired. You have to,
Play the long game.
play the long game, enjoy along the way, live those light moments, learn how to smell the flowers along the way, enjoy the fragrance. Don't just run and go after things that, will make you just work and make you a workaholic in a way. So these are, we would, I don't know if we would have even, read all the books in the world, personal development books. I don't know if we would have learned all of this. But when it comes at the right moment, from the right person, at the right time, I think it makes a lot of difference. It just changes your world around for you.
Actually, what I really do when you call me is remind you of what a beautiful life you guys have.
Yes.
And you worked hard to reach there, and remember what you had before. So don't mess it up with some idiot or some stupid thing coming, because that thing is come today and it will go tomorrow.
Correct.
And you, because of your stability in your finance, because of your leadership skills, because of you understanding the leverage and delegating and building systems, everything is running without you, it's scaling. So whenever you just want, you can just go back and enjoy your life and live your life. And whenever you want to go back and change the gear, you can always do this. So I do nothing more than just reminding her. Second thing is, there is no point comparing two people or two businesses. It's because you don't know their challenge, you don't know
Yeah.
their problems, and similarly, they don't know yours. It's like you are giving a chemistry exam and they are giving a Hindi exam, and you can't compare
Totally.
the marks.
Totally.
There is so much already happening good in the world. Why go there and start crying about something small which is not happening? So it's not really required. And I know Gauri gets a little hyped up a lot of times, and I used to be like that. So I see myself in her every time, and I know how it is. And thank God to Raki, she was the one who would do that for me, and I learned a lot from her also. But this was something. By the way, these guys run a huge business. We don't want to say the numbers, but they have a huge team. Many thousands of people working in their team. Their revenue going in big numbers. We don't want to talk that about on YouTube. But now let's come to the fun part. So we're going to do some fun things,
Sure.
and it's going to be very exciting. Niranjan is getting it. So Gauri, Niranjan. So there are three questions I'm going to ask you. First question is, what do you love about Niranjan in this whole journey? Niranjan, what do you love about Gauri in this whole journey? And then what do you both love about me in this whole journey at all, if you love anything? What do you hate about Niranjan? What do you hate about Gauri? And what do you hate about me? There are first, let's address this. Yeah, Niranjan is like bus kar. How much? Gauri is going to have a huge list, but you can keep it short.
Absolutely. So, these are not very difficult questions. What I really love about Niranjan, particularly in the business and when we're working together, is his ability to take some calculated risks, which I don't have at all. That ability is not there. So I always look up to him for that. I don't like the dreaminess. He's a Piscean, so the dreaminess that comes along with being a Piscean is something that sometimes I have to
Wake him up.
yeah, exactly. Let's just do something. But it is something that I dislike at times. But if you really ask me, I don't know.
It attracts you also.
Exactly. And absolutely. And with you, Hemang, I just love the way you pour into us. The way you very lovingly speak with us, coach us. We really, that is something that nobody can take your place in our lives for the love that you have for us. And I really admire it.
Thank you.
So what I really love about Gauri is her, I would say, her unwavering discipline that she has when it comes to, if she has taken a task in her hand, then she will see to it that it meets its logical end. She's extremely focused once she makes up her mind that this is something that needs to be done. And that is really very, I would say, that's been one of the most important supports in our business for all this time. As you have heard from her, I am the dreamer sort and she is the doer sort. So the doers are the one who actually get things done. What I sometimes don't like about her is that she tends to get a little worked up at times, and in the sense of, especially when it comes to people, I would find that her patience is a little lacking, because ultimately it's only through a lot of explaining, through a lot of through a lot of love and affection, that you can really bring about changes in people. If people were to really work on suggestions that you would offer, everybody would be living a wonderful life. But as you were extremely patient with us, it's been quite a while that you have seen us, and the changes have been over a period of time. I would want her to realize the same.
More coaching required, Hemang.
and
You have to chill more.
yeah, she just has to chill more. And what we really like and admire about you is this friendship. In the sense, I cannot put it in any better words, but it says it all, because we have had mentors in our life, we have had coaches in our life, we have had teachers in our life, but we have not had enough friends in our life who became all these three things for us. So that is one thing that we really love and admire, and we would not trade it for anything in this world, come what may. So
Thank you.
that's what we are.
So for Niranjan, what I really like is I like that he's pretty chill, or at least he looks chill on the face in the worst situation, because he's seen the worst of it. So he's always chill. He's the one who calms the storm whenever a storm comes, especially coming from Gauri. I like the part that he's very dreamy, because somebody has to be dreaming. Somebody has to be not thinking logically.
Logically, yes.
What I like about Gauri is exactly the opposite. She is very logical, so she will put everything on paper. She will put the numbers, she will put the work, and then you have to follow it. And Gauri follows it, and Niranjan has to follow it also.
Yeah,
And she's the one whom you are accountable to.
I'm happy to do that. Yeah.
And the beauty of Gauri is she's accountable to herself so much that she doesn't need anybody to, check her what she's doing.
And she's
That's
extremely
really
thorough.
good.
Yeah, she's extremely thorough.
That is crazy. And then I like that she gets hyped up. Because if there is no drama in the whole story, there is no fun. That drama, I mean, it's a Hindi movie. You're like,
I know.
And then
Some fireworks
some
every
drama,
day.
some emotion. क्योंकि विलन ही नहीं होगा तो हीरो का मजा क्या आएगा? रात ही नहीं होगी तो दिन का मजा क्या होगा? And this is what I really loved about you guys. You guys are doing a fantastic job. Just keep on doing it. But the last thing what I want to ask you for new people, anybody who's starting to be an entrepreneur or getting into any business or a coaching business or starting their own business or doing a startup, what are the things you think that they should be looking at, that they don't have to go through so much failures, and they start getting results more faster, and some things do you think they should work on 100%?
Two things for sure. One is having the daily discipline. That is extremely important in a business, because a business initially has to be done. It requires a lot of your time. It requires a lot of structured effort, in the way that mostly even it could go closer to doing a job, because you have to put in the number of hours and get involved in every way into your business.
What you're saying is you have to be like a job till it actually becomes
a business.
100%.
Perfect.
Absolutely. Because that really teaches you every part of the business, which you can then transfer. The skill transfer, the knowledge transfer can happen only if you have been involved very keenly into the business. So initially, that structure or that method, that discipline is extremely important. And number two, if you can, please find a coach, a mentor. In different businesses, they are, you may have different words, terminologies for it, but somebody, that person who will guide you, who will look at your business, who will help you to understand, analyze. Also try to call you out if you're making mistakes. It's very important. You don't just want people to praise you, but you want people to point out exactly where you're going wrong. That is really would be a blessing that you can have in your business. And most importantly, stay loyal to the mentor, because a lot of times I see we do, have mentorship, but then we don't follow through. So it's not always just having people around you, but also being able to utilize their skills to have them pour into you. So if you come with that stimulus, then your coach or the mentor will also pour that knowledge and experience into you. So as a beginner, one has to be really ready to learn. One has to have that attitude to accept what the senior, the mentor is telling you. That is very, very important. And to be loyal and faithful, and have this workable relationship where you are always respecting the coach or the mentor and trying to fulfill what they have set out for you. So I think that is a responsibility that all people who are starting out in the business must have. One cannot be from day one saying that I own my business and I know it all and I'll figure it out. One can figure out, it will just take a very long time. But if you learn from somebody who has done it, who has the experience, who has made those mistakes before you don't have to always touch the fire to know it's hot. So it really makes sense if you are teachable, if you're coachable, and then the business can be much easily, success can be much easily achieved.
I would just like to add just one point to what she has said, and I would like to advise, if I may, that always choose to do a business that you really would imagine yourself doing, even if you don't make money. And one should not place the cart before the horse. That means a lot of times people go around cherry picking which business will make me the most money in the least amount of time. Let me get into that sort of a business. Now, there is a lot of money to be made in software development, but I'm not good at coding. So no matter how diligently I try to apply myself, my heart is never going to be in that business. And nobody ever got rich doing something that they don't like. So if entrepreneurship is the bug that has bit you, try to build a business around something that you really love doing. Or everybody is gifted with some talents. Try to choose a business which helps you to make maximum use of these talents on a daily basis. If you choose a business that you really love doing, money is eventually going to flow. Money is eventually going to follow. But if you choose a business just from looking at the lucrative or the financial aspects, then probably you will make money, but you will not be happy at the end of the day. That's the only one thing that I would like to suggest.
So it was fantastic talking to you guys. I think I can talk for a few more days.
Absolutely.
But I think looking at the audience, we will have to finish the podcast. Maybe we'll come with another one after a few months again. But thank you very much, Niranjan and Gauri, for sharing your experiences, your thoughts, especially your failures and how you came out of those failures and achieved success. And for you guys, keep on watching my podcast, and I'm going to come out with some exciting stories, exciting people who have gone through so many failures and have achieved success. If you're not subscribing to my channel, subscribe and do mention in your comments what do you think about this. Thank you very much. See you. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Hemant. Thank you for having us. Thank you.